J-Mac Show with you with J-Mac on Birds 365. Appreciate you streaming in with us. We've got Bob Groats from the Delco Times, Eagle Beat guy, going to join us coming up in less than 15 minutes now. Johnny Mac, I did want to ask you about the report that was out there over the weekend from Jerry McFowler, who's a pretty good inside information guy around the NFL, on Carson Wentz, that Wentz is in LA working out, and that there have been some teams to show interest in Carson Wentz. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can read into that. Has received interest. How do we determine that? The teams returned his agent's call. Does that mean that they're interested in Carson Wentz because they did the due diligence thing and said, yeah, we'll call back his agent, when he's putting calls into general managers around the league and saying, hey, my guy's out of work. He can't get a job with anybody in the National Football League. Sorry, Carson, I just don't buy this report. Here's how I'll ask you, Johnny Mac. Carson Wentz will sign with an NFL team when during this offseason? Give me a date that Carson Wentz will sign a contract with an NFL team.
I'm going to go August 15th when somebody gets injured somewhere and the panic begins. I'm going to go August 15th. You know, I want to give, you mentioned Jeremy. Carson was on Sports Center, so it was sort of his own. Because I saw it too, and I was like, oh, well, this is part of the information broker,
fabrication. Yes, exactly right.
But Jeremy didn't do that, so I want to make it clear he's not the one who put out. Because I was thinking that. I was like, well, this is what you have to do. You got to give agents a favor, so you get information, more important information down the road. But now this was actually him on Sports Center, Carson himself. I didn't see the Sports Center aspect of it, but so he's trying to get it out there. Yeah. The most important part to me, working out in LA, that means that is a dead giveaway for Tom House and company. That's what he did before the Super Bowl season when he was good. Got away from it. Mechanics fell apart. That to me is a positive sign. It's what Jalen Hurts did. Same guys. Tom and Adam, same guys. That to me is a positive sign. It's never proven he could stick with it consistently. I wouldn't sign him, but if somebody gets hurt somewhere and somebody panics, I think that's his wheelhouse at this stage.
J-Mac, you and I are on the exact same page. Again, the way the reporting went made it sound like be on the lookout. Could happen this week. They've gotten close to negotiate. I don't believe that for a millisecond. Not only do all 32 teams, and part of the reporting was he's open to whatever role he's going to play. Yeah, as if there's any team out there that's going to bring him in as the starting quarterback. He better be willing to fill any quarterback role a team needs. I think all the teams have their backup quarterback as well. I don't think there's a job to be had. There's going to have to be a job creation. And as you correctly point out, the easiest way for that to happen is an injury. And oh, by the way, yeah, in camp, the Eagles aren't the only ones who go light in camp these days. They might go lighter than anyone else, but there is no two-a-days. There is no hard hitting in practice. You got that quarterback shirt on, you're not going to get touched. So the only way a guy's going to get injured is either unbelievably bad luck, slipping in the shower, or a preseason game. And everything is pushed back. So I like your date of August 15th. That's about it. When a quarterback could take a bad step in the 2 series that he's going to play in a preseason game and he goes down. Oh, shoot, now we don't have the depth. We need a quarterback. Is Carson Wentz still available? Yeah, that's when that call is made. That's when that potential signing happens, and not before it. We're at May 15th, which means we got to get to June 15th and July 15th before we ever get to August 15th, so it's 3 months down the road. So the way the reporting made it sound like it was much more imminent. I'm with you. He's not going anywhere for another 3 months. And you're kind of kicking a guy when he's down because he's had 3 straight bad seasons on 3 different teams. Here's how we put a positive spin on it, since I'm still trying to get Howie Roseman to upgrade and admit that he is under evaluating the linebacker position during this offseason. Howie, again, tip of the hat. The trade that he made for Carson Wentz in 2020 hindsight to get a first-round pick and a third-round pick for Carson Wentz after the season he had. And yes, we continue to evaluate it thereafter. The season that he had in Indy, the season that he had in Washington, the fact that he's not on a roster in mid-May tells you that was one of the best trades that Howie Roseman's ever made. What's the word he doesn't like, John?
Fleecing.
Talk about fleecing. He fleeced the Colts and then some on the Carson Wentz trade.
Yeah, but let's settle down with that, Jody, from the perspective that the Eagles created the problem. So, I mean, they had to get out. Now, that's, to me, what makes Howie a great general manager. You have to make the best of your situation. You got to move on quickly. You can't have a memory, sort of like playing cornerback. You made a mistake, you move on, you try to make the most out of it. That's what he does really well. Other GMs hang on to mistakes, or sometimes they can't admit mistakes, because if they do, they'll get fired.
Right.
So part of it is he has the ability to do it, but part of it is that he recovered and did a tremendous job. But, it's not in a vacuum. They also created the issue as well with the misevaluation. You can even argue as far as not understanding the psyche of the player, because remember, at the crux of this, the Eagles thought this was their franchise quarterback, and they handled that situation poorly, but they recovered magnificently. I think that's a larger perspective of it.
It outweighs. You're right. It doesn't just make it go away that they decided to make him the highest paid Philadelphia Eagle ever, and then he spit the bed. Yeah, that did happen, and that is on the resume of the organization as well. It will never be erased, but you can certainly lessen the impact of it by doing what you did thereafter. The biggest of which was getting anything in exchange for Carson, a 1 and a 3. And then, oh, by the way, as well, having Jalen Hurts here. I know that you and I disagree on this a little bit. You think that the fact that they drafted him as a backup quarterback and used his second-round pick to do so, and do you really do that for a backup? Yeah, but it was, for me, always a comma and potential starting quarterback. The initial reason that they took him was to be an inexpensive backup. But if they didn't believe that there was a chance someday he could become their starting quarterback, I don't think they would have used a second-round pick on him. So I give him a ton of credit for that as well. And that factors into the being able to move on from Carson Wentz, because they rightfully had faith that Jalen Hurts was going to be their guy. You can say it was a shot in the dark as much as anything else, but the shot has been taken, and it was a dead center bullseye.
Hey, they'll take the credit. They'll take the credit, but I talked to them enough to know that wasn't the plan. That wasn't, but they'll take the credit if you want to give it to them. I already got labeled as negative this morning for pointing out Will Brinson predicts the Eagles go 10-7. I don't know why that makes me negative. So I'll go full negative and say, look, that wasn't their plan. Now, in hindsight, it looks brilliant, but it wasn't their plan. So I'm not going to give them credit for something they didn't plan for. Their plan was, hey, let's get a cost-effective backup because we got to pay our great starters so much money. That was the plan. And they'll take, but hey, they'll take the credit. I'll guarantee you that.
And I'm willing to give it to them, because nobody ever says, the Patriots' plan wasn't really to have Tom Brady be their starting quarterback. He's a 6th-round pick. Well, nobody thinks that way anymore. At some point, the history has to be rewritten with the results of today. And Jalen Hurts almost won the MVP last year. So, yeah, I'm going to give him credit, even if it was just a comma,
that to me, they're
footnote.
two
He
different
could
subjects,
become our
Jody,
starting quarterback someday.
because those who say that are telling the truth. Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback, and Drew Bledsoe was the plan to be the quarterback. So anybody who says that, and you're right, nobody says that anymore. But anybody who does say that and points out, hey, this is true, they're telling the truth. That's history. The people afterwards are rewriting history because of the success of Tom Brady. Doesn't change the fact that the original history, unfortunately, what is that old adage? History is written by the victors, and the victors tend to lie, and they tend to spin things the way they want it spun. Like I said, the Eagles will take the credit, but that wasn't the plan. But they will take the credit, and they are the victors because they found a superstar quarterback. But the history, the facts of the situation, that never changes. As much as people want to change it, that never changes.
No, I don't know that I would call any of them facts. It was opinion the day he was drafted, as to it wasn't a fact that he was guaranteed to be a backup quarterback for his entire career.
Yeah, you don't have to believe reporters, but it's a fact. I mean, I can't force you to believe us. It's a fact. They admitted it. It wasn't speculation from us. That was the plan. But yeah, I get it. The political landscape of this country, people don't like reporters. People don't believe reporters. And I get it. But we're not lying to you. We're not.
Well, here's how I would ask you, John, as a reporter. Did, off the record, anyone from the Eagle organization ever say, yeah, and we don't really expect Jalen Hurts to ever be a starter?
I can't say what people say off the record. It was made very clear to us that why he was drafted. It was made very clear to us why he was drafted. And he was drafted, and everybody knows he was drafted to be a cost of, and there's nothing wrong with that. It made sense in a vacuum. The part that didn't make sense was Carson Wentz's reaction to it. And I don't even know if you can blame the Eagles for that. Should they have known? Maybe they should have known the personality, but that you can't control people's feelings, and you can't always understand how people are going to handle a certain situation. All I'm trying to say is it is revisionist history to think this team took Jalen Hurts to be a starting quarterback. They just didn't. And right. You can go, you can go back to last, where are we? May 16th. You can go back to May 16th last year, and they weren't sold on Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback.
Agreed. They made legitimate plays for Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. You are correct. But they didn't get that done, so they went to Jalen again. And the results speak for themselves. And I know Howie Roseman too well to believe that he ever said, and Jalen Hurts will never be more than a backup quarterback. If that was the main reason for getting him, yes. But Howie's smart enough and Howie's good enough at the game to at least cover his backside by saying, and if someday he becomes the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, we'll take that for damn sure.
Well, he never said that. I can tell you, he never said that on the record. I can tell you, he was hopeful of 4 years down the line of spinning off Jalen Hurts and getting significant draft capital so he could be a starter somewhere else. I can tell you that, but yeah, that wasn't the plan here.
Oh, and sometimes the plans change midstream. We will change it up with you next. Joining us here on Birds 365 is our favorite pal coming to you live from the car. He's always going somewhere, that Groats guy. Bob Groats for the Delaware County Times is going